I think I'm prepared for any responsibility that might come along, and philosophically, I am what we call in America an internationalist. I'm a fiscal conservative and a moderate in social legislation. That's the kind of a president I would be, although I don't anticipate being one.
Because there always is, isn't there, a difference between being president and being something else? It's always referred to as the loneliest office in the world. Do you think that that would daunt you?
Not at all. I believe in work, and I've worked in the House, I've worked in the office of Vice President, and as I say, any other responsibility that comes my way, I think I can handle it.
I, Gerald R. Ford, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
That I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Why is the captain down? Hi, how are you?
Our distinguished guests and my fellow Americans, I proudly present to you the man whose name I will submit to the Congress of the United States for confirmation as the Vice President of the United States, Congressman Gerald Ford of Michigan. Well, they like it.
I ask all public officials, federal, state, and local, and all persons or agencies that have custody of normally private records regarding me to make them fully and speedily available, including all my campaign finances, office and personal bank accounts, even our children's savings accounts, my income tax records and confidential financial disclosure records required by House rules, all correspondence of my congressional office and the records of my certified public accountant in Grand Rapids. I have answered every request unreservedly, and I want to give such answers here because of the great importance of the present inquiry.
Illegal acts of a handful of people, stupid, unconscionable, should have such a dire impact on an outstanding record in the field of foreign affairs, and I think a well above average record on domestic affairs. It's just unbelievable. He's got a record to talk about, and he's got 3 more years to improve on it. And I think he's got to go out and communicate as well as execute.
enough.
Very briefly, sir, when Congress comes back in session, what is the mood going to be? Are they just going to want to get it over with one way or the other?
I think the Congress, after having a 4 or 5 week vacation, will come back with a new attitude. I think the President will approach the Congress with a strong new attitude of cooperation. I hope that'll take place in both the Congress and in the President. I think it has to, because we've got some problems we've got to solve. And we ought to get over the idea that we can blame one and get credit if we do it. The problems better be solved, and I think the mood of the Congress and the mood of the President will be aimed at solving those problems. And that'll be good for the country.
Nice meeting you, and thanks very, very much. Good to see you, sir. Pleasure to see you, and we appreciate your help. Thank you very much. It's been a nice day here. How do you do, sir? Nice to see you, and thank you very much. Today, there are prophets of doom who say that the light of moral principle in America is growing dim. They say our standards of truth and honesty have been lowered. They say we can no longer claim to represent the best that is in men and in women. I, for one, don't believe this. I do not believe that America has lost for a moment its strong sense of character and integrity. Indeed, I believe just the opposite. I believe that our country is demonstrating today a fidelity to moral principles that every American can be proud of. The flame of decency and right still burns as brightly as ever in our land among our 211 million citizens. Every generation of Americans has the obligation to rekindle this flame with its own youthful idealism. Is that it? Tyler. Oh, hi. How are you? Nice to see you. Hi. I don't agree with that conclusion. My judgment is that the President is able to carry on successful foreign policy. The government is operating. The Congress is doing its job, not exactly the way I want it, but it's actually working at the job. The various departments in the federal government are operating, I think, reasonably successfully. Our institutions, whether they're the courts or the Congress, are carrying on under the framework of the Constitution. So I don't believe that there's any deterioration in the capability of the American government or the American people or this administration to function in the world as a whole.
Yes, in foreign policy, obviously the successes continue, but is that true in home policy? For example, over the problem of inflation at the moment? Is the President doing enough there?
I think you're going to see some, I hope, dramatic action, and I think there will be. But we had a meeting in the last day or two, and Dr. Kissinger in this cabinet meeting pointed out, he said he didn't understand why there was a lack of confidence in America as to our economy, because every place he traveled in Europe within the last week or 10 days, most of the leaders in those countries were saying how strong and how vigorous the American economy was. Our cost of living increases were less than in most European countries. Our economy was stronger and sounder than most European countries. Dr. Kissinger couldn't understand why there was any lack of confidence in America. We're going to, in my judgment, lower the rate of inflation in this country by the end of this calendar year to something like 7 to 8%. Now, that's not good, but it's significantly better than what it has been, and I think it'll probably be a better track record than in most other countries, most other industrial countries in the world. So, at home, I think we're doing quite well.
Do you feel that Watergate has perhaps shown that the president may have too much power, that he may not be sufficiently accountable to the rest of the American system?
I don't think Watergate in itself proves that point. I know that there have been allegations, and there's some truth to it, that the presidency in America has gradually, primarily since our Depression days of the 1930s, through World War II, through the Korean War, through the Vietnam War, the presidency has gotten more power and the Congress has relinquished some and in effect given it up to the executive branch. There is some credibility to that. I don't think Watergate was the catalyst. I think it's a long, long process going back to the 1930s.
It's obviously been an opportunity for people to get to know you personally as well, and perhaps we're learning a lot of things about you now that we didn't know before. Are you still, for instance, as keen on football as you always were? You were a football coach at Yale.
Yes, when I was younger, I competed in athletics, primarily football, and then I coached football while I was going to law school in order to get through law school. And I'm a grandstand observer, not a grandstand critic, because I understand the problems that players and coaches have, and I enjoy the game, and I enjoy athletics today, although not in a team sense, but I like golf, skiing, swimming.
You still take a swim every morning?
Twice a day.
You've been traveling all over America. What do you find that, away from Washington, people's reaction generally is to Watergate, the biggest scandal that there's ever been in American history?
I think there's a disillusionment, and I think that's understandable. I think what's happened in the Watergate situation has alerted the American people that they have to do something affirmatively to make certain that in the future, hopefully, there will not be a repetition. As you know, there have been scandals in other administrations. There have been all kinds of, over the years, some allegations and some truth to the fact that there was dishonesty in government. I think the Watergate situation with the indictments and maybe some convictions and some pleas of guilty, this has been sort of a move now that the American people want to stop it, and I hope they will.
You've said repeatedly that you don't want to be elected president in 1976, but you are the front runner in all the polls. You've said you won't run, but that seems to be a routine denial among American politicians. What are the chances that you would run?
The chances are literally zero, because I have said and reiterated, as you've indicated, that I have no intention of being a candidate for any political office in 1976. I foresee no change. I foresee no possibility of a change, no circumstances that would justify my changing.
May I ask you about some of the reaction which occurred when you were chosen to be vice president? There was a lot of press comment on both sides of the Atlantic, and some of those comments seemed to be particularly cutting about you. They described you as dull or even mediocre. Did that sort of comment hurt you at the time?
Not at all, because if you're in the political arena in the United States, those are mild comments compared to what we get in our campaigns. As long as I have faith that those charges are inaccurate, which I do, and as long as I have evidence which discounts that, which I do, what somebody says who doesn't know the facts really doesn't bother me any.
You certainly don't feel a dull and mediocre person yourself.
No, you know, we've had a lot of charismatic politicians in America, and most of them never got anything done. They make a good appearance, they make fine speeches, but they never really do anything effectively. And my answer to that, assuming these allegations or names are accurate, I'd rather have that reputation and be a doer than a charismatic person and accomplish nothing.